Five Nights at Freddy's has an entire side of its history that almost all fans have forgotten, and it doesn't exist in the games themselves, it exists inside of Garry's mod. Back in the mid-2010s, fans of the series made some of the first attempts at recreating the FNAF games through GMOD maps, long before accurate models or references existed, and because of that, these maps ended up strange. The layouts don't fully match with the games, the animatronics look uncanny, and a lot of these maps are either lost to time or only exist now through old videos because they are no longer playable. So that's why I dug up 5 of the most iconic and creepiest maps to break down in extreme detail, as these maps seemingly haven't been fully documented or explored within recent years, which means there are still mysteries inside them that haven't been fully explained, starting with one of the earliest recreations ever made, the original Five Nights at Freddy's 1 map. Immediately upon spawning into the level, we are greeted to the surroundings of the office scene from the first Five Nights at Freddy's, except that this environment feels different compared to the game. Looking down the halls, we see nothing except darkness, but then looking at the dining area, the lights are on, seemingly as if it were daytime. The layout is the same as what can be seen within the first FNAF game, but the lighting, textures, and atmosphere of the pizzeria itself is off. This is for good reason, as this is the earliest FNAF 1 recreation made in Garry's mod, uploaded just days after the first game's release on August 15th, 2014, created by the users Orange, Keithy, and Bad Ham Nibs, with the title simply being Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The description for this map features some details that can help provide context on the various mechanics, features, and things seen within this level. But even though that context may be useful, I feel it is best to experience this map blind if it's your first time seeing footage regarding it. So let's do exactly that. As mentioned, when loading into the level, you spawn inside of the office surrounded by darkness, where in front of you there is a screen, power bar, phone, and most importantly, buttons to control the cameras. The office is dark, and in order to see everything inside of it, you may need to use your flashlight, where when using it, you'll see other details that were previously hard to spot, such as the poster seen from FNAF 1, along with the cupcake on top of the right monitor. But as you continue to look around, you'll notice the light and door buttons featured from the game as well, where when clicking on them, they both work exactly as intended, meaning they must have a purpose. The office is basically a one-to-one recreation of the office seen in the first Five Nights at Freddy's, but this can't be said for the rest of the pizzeria, because instead of you just being stuck inside of the office like the game, you can actually free roam within the interior of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. This is what made this map, along with the others we will be looking at, so unique, as these levels provided various distinctive takes on the pizzerias featured within them, and allowed for the creators to express their own creativity for the levels, making the possibilities for them endless. Obviously, as the franchise evolved and as more games were made, this became easier to do, as more ideas were presented to be implemented into the levels. But for this map, that opportunity didn't really exist, but the map still had unique characteristics that were not featured or shown in the actual game. One of those details can be seen in the hallways, with those actually being the cameras used from inside of the office, as you can actually see them, along with some of the lights used to brighten up specific areas of the map. This seems like a no-brainer, and obviously there would be cameras seen throughout, but this extra detail helps give the map an extra level of immersion that most people wouldn't bother including. But this isn't the only cool characteristic seen in these hallways, as if we look down the left hall and enter into the janitor's closet, we can see the shelves seen from the actual game. But if we look closer, we can actually see some of the posters that feature various YouTubers who played the map when it first released, with Yamaoka being one of the most popular included. Each of these posters have little quirks that specify to each person. but it just goes to show the amount of appreciation the developers had towards the people who played the map at the time. Looking back towards the halls again, and now looking at the right hall in specific, we see trash, posters, electrical boxes, and old TVs similar to the left hall, except that this hall has a vent, which at first glance seems like another random detail, until you decide to hit it with your crowbar. If you were curious enough to attempt this, you would break open the vent cover to expose a vent system, where when you crawl through it, you will stumble upon one of the map's various secrets. With that being a look into the kitchen, where through another vent cover, you can actually see Golden Freddy atop a table, looking at you. Unlike the other vent cover, this one is unbreakable, so you can't really get a good look at the kitchen, but through no clipping, you can see some appliances, along with a broken camera and some blood. This room serves no purpose, except to function as a tiny Easter egg, but is still a cool nod to the game not having a functioning kitchen camera, and this unimportant Easter egg paved the way for one of FNAF 1's most popular theories, with that being the theory that Golden Freddy hides in the kitchen of the pizzeria, since he is seen nowhere on the other cameras. Apart from these things, this is all the hallways have to offer in terms of visuals, which allows us to move into the dining area of the pizzeria, and upon first glance, this again looks to be a one-to-one recreation of the area. You can see the tables, the main stage, Pirate's Cove, along with the doors and doorways that lead to the backstage, restrooms, and even the kitchen, but we also see another door which leads to another area, which we will get to shortly. This whole room feels strange. It's a decent recreation of what is seen on the FNAF 1 cameras, but it feels empty. Sure, the room is packed to the brim with tables and stages, but the walls are bland and the floors are empty, which in comparison to the halls, they look like polar opposites. This could have been done to showcase that the dining area is taken good care of, and is kept clean and maintained. But regardless of the reason, whether it be to more accurately portray the game, or to just look clean, it doesn't feel like it translated very well, as it just feels off. But maybe this is also in part to the animatronics themselves, as they too feel just as off compared to this room itself, and could be the main factor to why it does, which allows me to bring up something that isn't the map, but instead allows me to go over the animatronics themselves. These animatronics, especially these specific models, are something of an icon in the community, both for FNAF and GMOD, with these being the first ever official models of the animatronics, most prominently known as the Splink models. There is a lot that can be said here about these specific versions of the animatronics, with a lot of videos online already doing exactly that. But unlike those videos, they haven't gone over the role they played in these maps, which is what I will do here. But in order for me to do that, I will need to talk about the models themselves for a second. These models actually have multiple different versions, and if you grew up on FNAF back when the games first came out, you would know that as time progressed, the models became more refined and polished over time, and the exact same thing can be said about the models seen on the stage. This map actually features different models compared to any other add-ons that feature them, as these ones are not actually available as an add-on outside of the map, because these ones are the ones that existed prior to any refinements, meaning these are the first ever renditions of this specific model. The reason this is important is because this is something not many people know, and this allows us to look at the differences between these models compared to the later ones. These differences in accuracy for the models, especially compared to the games, give them a weird uncanny feeling to them, which is heightened due to them missing some prominent features, such as Bonnie having a more flat white design on his stomach, while also missing white on the inner parts of his ear. Freddy not having lighter brown shade on his stomach or on the upper portion of his mouth. Chica missing the orange shading around her feet, along with missing her toes altogether. Golden Freddy just being yellow and not gold, while also having the same inaccuracies as normal Freddy, and Foxy is, well, the same as later renditions, for the most part. Obviously, when comparing these models to the actual game, they are not even close to being accurate, but for the time and for how quick these were made for this map, they look great. I could keep going into detail regarding these designs themselves, but as I said, that's already been done to death, so instead of doing that, let's look at the roles they played in this map, and how they helped curate the atmosphere. Getting back to the point I brought up earlier about the dining room feeling empty and uncanny. Everything I just mentioned about the animatronics play a part in that, whether it be consciously or subconsciously, and this is how. The models are inaccurate and have weird discrepancies, those of which we just looked at, but what I failed to mention is the weird texturing and lighting they have on this map for some reason, as when looking at them closely, they just feel plain, flat, and look as if they were made with paper mache or plastic, not metal or fur. They look like toys, not animatronics, and feel out of place for these reasons, which makes the dining room feel out of place, because instead of them looking worn or used, they just look too polished, which doesn't feel right, especially when looking at the state of the hallways. They just don't fit. They feel too new for a place this old, and this age can be seen if we direct our attention to the rest of the rooms in the pizzeria. Moving to the bathrooms, we again are greeted with a bunch of trash and grime scattered throughout, making both the men's and ladies' restroom feel gross. There isn't much to talk about here. The stalls opened and that's about it. But while writing the script, I just now realized that the bathrooms are in the wrong spots, as the men's and women's bathrooms are flipped compared to the games, which is kind of funny. Apart from the gross decrepit walls and trash, this is all the bathrooms have for personality. So let's direct ourselves to the adjacent room, which is the one I mentioned earlier that isn't featured in FNAF 1, with that being the entrance to the pizzeria. This room is dark and only features one desk with a cash register on it, some windows that look outside, a locked door, and a few more posters. Yeah, that's it. No chairs, no tables, nothing like a typical lobby area would have, which I guess makes sense for Fazbear Entertainment. Regardless of how empty this room is, it feels like the most alive within the entire map, and that's because of the windows looking outside, as when looking out of them, you can see the street, the sidewalks, the buildings, and even distant skyscrapers indicating that you're within a big city, all accompanied by the sound and visuals of rainy weather. It isn't much, but this helps the map feel bigger than it actually is, and makes you feel less alone while you are in this area, which provides a sense of comfort. There is also another secret that can be found in this area, where if you look out the window into the building across the street, you'll see a room with a flashing light, where upon further inspection, you'll see a guy staring at you from said building, and if you no-clip to that room, you'll see a blood trail indicating that he is probably dead, along with a computer setup where, if you interact with it, you'll get a nice orchestra version of the Toreador March. Apart from this though, there isn't anything else to see located within this area, meaning we have only one more place to go over, that being the backstage room. I left this room for last, as the backstage area has two features within it that make this map go from quote-unquote just your average GMOD level to a completely playable version of Five Nights at Freddy's 1, and well, I'll let the phone guy from the office explain what I mean by that.
Hello? Hey there. You must be the new night watchman. Welcome to your new job here at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. We'd like to welcome you to the crew, but first we need to tell you some stuff. We here at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza have had a rough couple of years. You might have heard about it. Because of this, money is relatively tight, so once you feel safe enough, we'd appreciate it if you could turn off the main power income. This is done by using the switch backstage. Once used, this will switch the power onto our generator. This power source is very delicate and must be used with caution. Things like your doors and lights will use up power over time. If the generator does happen to die on you, you'll have to go down into the basement and restart it. The generator room is found connected to the backstage. Just go down and press the button near the generator, and it should sort itself out. It's usually locked though, so we left you a key in your desk. And if you can, try to stick to your office. The animatronics are a bit feisty at night, and you won't want to. Oh shit. Okay, just stick to your office and use the doors. Don't wander around or they might get you. Not saying anything bad will happen, but just trust me. Alright, that should be it. Hope you have a safe night. And,
The backstage features a button to turn off the main power, and a locked door that leads to the basement, and if you were listening closely, the basement has a generator that may need to be reset if you run out of power, the key of which to unlock said door being in the office. At first glance, the backstage room looks similar to the one in the first game, missing an endoskeleton but resembling it quite well, until these two details are put into play, making it now something entirely different in a way, especially when looking at the basement. Upon entering the room, you are greeted to a dim staircase wrapped around a giant pipe, along with various wires and electrical equipment, making this area stand out from the rest of the building, and when walking down the stairs, you are then greeted to a pitch black room where the generator reset button is located. There isn't much to talk about regarding the basement. Sure, it is very creepy and has a cool mechanic to even get inside, but apart from that, the basement is here to serve a purpose, that being to restart power. But why would you need to restart power? Well, that's where the button in the backstage comes into play, because the second you click it, all of the lights turn off, and the animatronics start to move, exactly like how they do in FNAF 1. I'm not going to explain how to fend off the animatronics or how this mode plays out, because it is literally just like FNAF. Keep an eye on the cameras and close the doors when you see them outside of them, simple as that. The cool thing though is that you are able to free roam during this, meaning that you can watch the animatronics teleport to their positions just like how they do in the game, and you can watch Foxy run down the halls, and yes, I mean halls as in plural, as he can also run down the right hall in this version. The only animatronic that doesn't work is Golden Freddy, which is fine as he isn't really needed, so he was just never implemented and only exists as an Easter egg within the map. So if you want to get jump scared and play FNAF with your friends, or just free roam while seeing them move around, then this is the perfect place to do so. And this leads me to the final room of this map, as there is actually one more, that being an admin room which allows the player to control the movements of each animatronic, making it possible for one player to survive the night while another tries to kill their friend. This map is the perfect representation of the early FNAF fandom, and shows the amount of respect the game garnered within its early days, regardless of how imperfect it was. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza encapsulates the limitations the community had at the time, and also showcased its creativity to push past them. Whether it be through its designs, secrets, models, gameplay, or jump scares, because yes, this map did have custom jump scares, which just goes to show you that even though this was just the beginning, it would only get better. Just like how Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria 2 did. Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria 2 is the direct sequel to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and was primarily created by the user Keithy, the same person who created the first map, along with the help of a few other people, and was released just 5 days after FNAF 2's release on November 15th, 2014. This map, similar to the previous, is just as eerie, but not in the same way as the last, but instead due to how lifeless and empty this level feels compared to it. This map is dark, it's empty, and feels incomplete, probably because it is. But unlike the last map, this one just feels hollow and doesn't replicate the same vibe as the game, making it feel disconnected. But from a design standpoint, this map is a very close one-to-one recreation of the layout seen from the cameras within FNAF 2, making it again one of the best and earliest recreations of the game ever made, which can be seen very well within the office area of the map. Upon spawning in, you will be greeted to the sight of a very dim office, where in front of you, a camera and a light system similar to the previous map can be seen, and when looking to your sides, you'll notice vents with the same light system as well. Apart from this though, the office doesn't have much going on until you turn around, where you'll see a phone with instructions like last time, along with a door which leads to a small janitor's closet which functions as your mask. We'll get into the gameplay mechanics shortly, as this map has a few quirks that make the gameplay different compared to FNAF 2 and to the first FNAF map, making it actually more unique from a gameplay standard, but we need to look at everything else first before we can do that. As I said, the office doesn't have much, the same like FNAF 1's office. All it has is cameras, lights, vents, decoration, and that's about it. Oh, and the posters for the animatronics actually feature the GMOD models this time, and you can also honk Freddy's nose in this map, which is cool. Moving on to the main hallway though, along with the party rooms, well, there isn't really much going on here to be honest. The party rooms are literally the exact same as they are in the FNAF 2 cameras, meaning all we see are tables, balloons, presents, posters, and just banners scattered throughout the rooms. Each of the rooms are basically just copy and pasted, just like how the vents and vent placements are for the 2 party rooms, making these locations again feel boring and hollow, regardless of each of their different properties. The only redeeming factors regarding this room is that you can see the paper pals within party room 4 and see the wet floor sign, along with a little Freddy plushie in the party room too. The significance behind this Freddy plush is unknown to me, as more hidden plushies can be found around the map in obscure locations, but apart from this one in particular, this is the only one found in these rooms. Making our way through the hallway, it is too pretty unimportant, but it does feature one of the cooler Easter eggs hidden on this map, with that being more posters showing off people who played this map when it first released, similar to what was seen in the janitor's closet within the FNAF 1 map. This time, there are way more, probably around 20 scattered around the hallway, some hidden in the darkness, some in between electrical equipment, and some by other papers on the wall, making it easier to potentially miss, especially due to just how dark this hallway is. Finally making our way to the actual main hall, there isn't anything to note, as it is literally just a one-to-one recreation of the camera scene in FNAF 2, making this area again just feel hollow and boring. But just as boring as the main hall, the bathrooms aren't any better, basically just being a copy and paste of the ones from the first map, except that a Golden Freddy plush can be seen in the ladies' restroom for some reason. But if you thought this was just as boring, don't worry, it gets worse, because if you look into the parts and service room, there's, well, nothing. Yeah, there's no withered animatronics on this map, except for an old endoskeleton tucked away in the back next to an arcade machine. I'll get to why this is in a moment, but this is another big reason why this map feels empty, and that's because, as I said, it is technically unfinished, with the withereds being one of those unfinished things. Apart from this, the parts and service room does have some cool details, such as the endo and the arcade machine, which features graphics from the arcade segments in FNAF 2, while also being named Save Them. The machine also features a note, which actually indicates some lore for the map. Listen Frank, I don't care if your brother made the damn game. This is not appropriate for children. Liam. I assume the context for this is that the machine has the same gameplay as the Save Them minigame, hence why this note was put here, and hence why the machine is in the back room. This is about the only world building this map has, as when moving forward into it and entering the final rooms, those being the whole dining area, there just isn't really much else to really make this map feel special or unique. The dining room comprises of the main stage, game area, and prize counter, and when looking at everything, it's mainly just again a close recreation to what was seen within FNAF 2, with a few small exceptions. Looking around, we see tables, presents, party supplies, and everything we already saw in the party room, except with a few more things, such as arcade machines, the carousel, and toys in the prize counter. I'd say the only cool thing in this room is the arcade machines, as they all have fully custom graphics, with ones even showing a full body mangle, while others have references to Scott Cawthon's previous games, such as Chipper & Sons Lumber Co. and The Desolate Hope. Apart from this though, everything is about the same as what can be seen in FNAF 2, except in this iteration, it just feels bland. Even Pirates Cove feels the same way. Or sorry, Kids Cove, as again, it looks the exact same except just worse. I mean, Mangle is literally clipping through the ground and there is an invisible barrier blocking us from even getting close to them, which wasn't done for the rest of the animatronics such as Balloon Boy or the toys on the main stage. And talking about animatronics, I think we should take a very quick look at them, as these ones are in my opinion 10 times worse than the ones from the previous map, as these are what I believe to be what help make this map feel so bland, as the animatronics themselves are exactly that, bland. Unlike the last map, these models aren't half bad, and I feel like they were made very well, especially for how quick they were made. But the issue isn't that, it's the fact they have no texturing. They don't reflect or show any semblance of metal like how they do in FNAF 2. They just simply have nothing, making them look flat. I get they are supposed to look clean and brand new, but this doesn't make them feel that way, as if that were the case, they would be shiny. I know it's a nitpick and doesn't really matter, but this combined with the fact the map itself is unfinished just makes it feel like this wasn't done to the best that it could have been, because Mangle has some texturing, but no one else does? Hell, even the plushies don't have texturing, which makes them look just as bad, regardless of how good the designs are. I'd say the only redeeming quality this map has is the fact that it is playable, and is pretty fun with the distinctly new gameplay features, especially when playing with friends, as the features in this one aren't explicitly told to you by Phone Guy, meaning through trial and error, you must figure out what to do in order to survive, making it a fun but challenging experience. So instead of me explaining everything right off rip, I'll have the Phone Guy do that instead, except that he, well, doesn't.
Hello and welcome to the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 GMOD map. This version of the map obviously includes events, which can be activated by going to the parts and service room connected to the main hallway. Once you switch on the buttons in there, the light will turn green, which lets you know that the animatronics are now active. Of course, the old animatronics are not yet available, but will become available once they are ready and I have implemented them into the map. If the light above an animatronic button is yellow, that means it is being controlled by someone in the admin room. Once you enable the animatronics, you have about 30 seconds to get back to the office before they start moving. Everything else should be pretty straightforward, because, you know, it works pretty much the same as Five Nights at Freddy's. There is one exception though, as the marionette will act a little bit differently, but I'll let you figure that out. Have fun.
Yeah, compared to the last phone call, this tells us nothing basically, except for how to actually start the nights themselves and explain why there are no withered animatronics. Everything else, like how to survive, must be figured out on your own, which for the most part is fairly self-explanatory. When an animatronic comes into the room, is seen in the vents, or is just close by, the same audio cue that plays when they enter your office from FNAF 2 will play, unless if it is Balloon Boy. And when this happens, or if they are just close by or in the vents, you must run into the janitor's closet behind you until they leave. The puppet functions the same way, which means you can actually survive her attack in this level, as she acts very differently compared to the actual games. In this map, there is no music box winding function, so the only way to know she has activated is by listening closely, as if you hear the sound of her music box, the same music that plays if you fail to wind it, she will begin to approach your office, where you will watch her teleport through the cameras until she reaches you. Because of these different mechanics, this also changed up some other things, primarily the admin room, as you are no longer able to choose where an animatronic goes, as that would be way too overpowered here. Instead, you are given 3 buttons, one for each class of animatronic, where when you click on it, a random animatronic will move closer to the player, meaning that you are unable to spam them while being inside the office. Apart from this being the map's only redeeming quality, especially 11 years after its release, this map no longer holds up, and is instead just now a relic that has aged poorly due to lack of updates, detail, and seemingly passion. This map is missing a lot of key elements that made the first map so good, such as an outside area, a detailed pizzeria, cool secrets, and just so much more. Obviously, a map doesn't need all that to be good, but this one just feels like a downgrade. Sure, the map never had all of this at launch, and it took months for the events to be playable, same as the first map, but the difference is the first map got finished at some point. This one didn't, making it a fun map to experience, but not really a fun one to play. This map had potential, and even the developer mentioned ideas regarding it within the description of it, mentioning adding daytime lighting, the rest of the animatronics, and more detail, but none of that ever happened. At least not officially, because just a couple months ago, another user actually finished the map, adding the final animatronics, a lobby area, a toy Golden Freddy in the kitchen, a weird hidden back room, along with a music box wind-up system, meaning that after all of these years, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza 2 technically had its happy ending, unlike the next new FNAF map made by Keithy, with that being Fazbear Frights. Now, before we get to that one, there's still 2 more other ones I want to take a look at first. Those actually being remakes of the first FNAF 1 level we already looked at, except this version is, well, both better and worse, for a vast variety of reasons. Again, these next 2 maps are made by Keithy, and they are in a way the exact same as one another, but are instead more of an environment showcase rather than an actual playable experience, like how the 2 previous maps were, making these worse in my opinion compared to the original. So then what is the point of remaking Freddy Fazbear's Pizza if it ultimately ended up worse? Well, I'll let the description speak for itself. So, a number of months ago, from the time I'm typing this, I made a poor excuse for a remake of the map from Five Nights at Freddy's. Over time, I updated the map to look better, but I always felt like it was never as good as it could be, excluding the lighting face errors. Well, I'm back with a new and improved map. The description also mentions some new features that are included in this version. Those including spooky ambience, custom models, working doors and lights, and less light face related problems, being that this was definitely an upgrade comparatively, so then why don't I like it? Spawning in, the difference is obvious, as the office and surrounding halls look unrecognizable in this remake, and while continuing to look around the pizzeria, we can see all the changes. From the custom models to the new texturing, lighting, and sounds, this level looks great, and even has a few interactive elements, such as the ability to close and open the curtain in Pirate's Cove. But this isn't all that changed, as now the rooms themselves feel more purposeful and less open, as the layout has been considerably shrunk down, which is most noticeable in the backstage and restroom areas. These differences help make the pizzeria feel more grounded and make it feel very small, which is both a negative and a positive, but the negatives weigh heavier unfortunately, as this map seemingly misses what made the original so much fun, and that is its distinctive quirks. No more are the hidden areas, such as the kitchen or basement, and no more are the animatronics, meaning no more is the gameplay aspect to this level, making it, as I said, just a showcase map. This isn't a bad thing, and when looking at the rooms in detail, it really comes to show how much better they are compared to the previous map's designs, and it would be foolish for me not to appreciate these visual improvements. The office is probably the best room to showcase this, as even though there aren't many changes, the difference in quality is astounding, as the lighting and custom models help bring this room a new life, making it feel darker but also more ambient. The same thing can be said about the dining area as well, except just on a bigger scale, with the prominent focus on these details being directed towards the main stage, as this is probably my favorite part of the pizzeria, as it looks the most meticulously created. From the custom backdrop to, again, the lighting, this area looks like an identical recreation from the one seen in the first FNAF 1 trailer, and I am sure that is no coincidence. This remake is not a new map, it is simply just a response to the original. It is a testament to not only the developer's passion, but simultaneously the community's, as this map was only made 3 months after the original, and just 1 month after the FNAF 2 level. The atmosphere is better, the accuracy is more akin to the actual game, and the textures, along with everything else, have been completely revamped, but the map still is missing various attributes seen within the first map and first game. But those other things aren't necessary, because they already existed in the previous version. So then what exactly is the point to this remake, and what is the point of even bringing it up? Well, that can simply be explained by one word: community. The original version of this map had a lot of inaccuracies, and for how popular it was, this wasn't exactly the best representation for the FNAF series. But as time passed, better references, models, and more passion was seen throughout the fanbase, making this map feel like a response to those earlier issues, while also being a bridge to the inevitable release of events for the FNAF 2 map, as that was not yet available until 1 month after this map was released. No one really knows the motivation to why this map was made, other than Keithy to use this as an improvement to his previous. But did this version actually succeed in its purpose? Well, yes, it did, but not in the way you're thinking. This map is far more accurate and is stylistically one of the best representations, especially in 2014, of the pizzeria, But that's all this map is, just a representation. The improvements make it feel closer to Five Nights at Freddy's, but the lack of gameplay holds it back, and this can be said about the second version of this map, being the nighttime version. Looking back, I always hated this map as a kid, mainly because it didn't have an active animatronic or gameplay section, but I always thought it was pretty, and now looking back, I can appreciate it more for why it stands as just the pizzeria. This map didn't exactly push boundaries, and is fairly forgotten compared to the other levels made around this time, but the next map decided to do the opposite, and is now considered a piece of lost media as it is no longer playable. Well, that's what I thought. With that being the final level in this video, that being Fazbear Frights. Fazbear Frights is completely different from everything else we looked at in this video, because this map can't even be played normally anymore, or at least that's what I thought. Originally, this was the fourth map made by Keithy, and it follows the exact same formula as the previous maps we looked at. It follows the same layout, looks the same as what can be seen on the cameras in FNAF 3, and has a dark atmosphere, basically blending a variety of elements from all maps prior into just one level, except that this map was never finished, and is the last Garry's Mod Workshop creation made by Keithy. But why? In a Steam discussion post, he mentioned his general lack of passion or time for making the maps, and called it quits right after Fazbear Frights' release, meaning the last time this map was updated was in June 2015. So now when you load into the map, it too feels empty and hollow and is smaller and less detailed than all the maps we looked at combined. But this isn't what everyone saw, as people as unlucky as myself saw something worse. This is what some people saw, such as myself, when loading into this map, and honestly, I don't even know how to describe it. Spawning in, you see flashing lights, broken textures, strange geometry, and just overall abnormal behavior from the map itself, accompanied by disturbing music and sounds which, at full volume, are absolutely ear-piercing. Looking around, there are several strange buildings, monuments, and you know what, fuck it. I'm not even gonna try to explain what can be seen here, because genuinely, what the fuck am I looking at? The whole map is broken and nothing from the original can be seen here, so then what exactly is going on? What happened? Why did only a handful of players experience this strange version of the map? And most importantly, was this done intentionally or was this accidental? Well, unfortunately, the answers aren't a simple yes or no, meaning in order to solve the mystery of what happened to this map, we are going to have to take a step back and explore a few possibilities. Now, given what we have mentioned, this occurrence is an anomaly in of itself, especially to the few people who have experienced it, as deciphering what could have caused this is hard, but not impossible, especially if we go down the list of things that could cause something like this to happen, such as not having Counter-Strike Source installed, or having conflicting mods installed, or something similar, but this shouldn't be an issue. As of recent, Garry's Mod no longer requires Counter-Strike Source to be installed in order to avoid errors and broken textures, as that has been patched, meaning that if this was caused by this issue, then it wouldn't happen anymore, except that it still can. So then maybe this is caused by conflicting mods, except that this map can still be played even if no other mods are installed, meaning that this isn't exactly true either. So then what else could it be? Is this some sort of virus? Well, the answer is still a bit more complicated, at least if you were in my shoes when trying to make this video, because you would need to look deeper in order to truly understand what is happening here. You see, after encountering this strange occurrence, this gave me the idea to make this video, and as I researched these maps to create my script, I would delve into the Steam Workshop pages for each of them, making sure I was able to get as much correct information as possible in order to provide you guys with the most up-to-date information. But for this map in particular, I noticed something weird. Looking at the comments featured on the page, a majority of the recent ones seem to just talk about the map, or say spam, with a few mentioning the map being broken, and hoping for it to be fixed, meaning that maybe I wasn't the only one who experienced this strange bug. But no matter how many times I uninstalled the map, reinstalled it, or tried the fixes people mentioned within the comments or discussions, nothing worked, meaning that either I was doing something wrong, or this map was corrupted. But when looking closer at the map itself, this definitely isn't corruption, but instead is intentional, designed to look like a corrupted map made for the purpose of, well, at the time, I didn't know. You see, this wasn't making sense, as no one seemed to even mention anything like what was seen anywhere, making it seem as if I was the only one who was experiencing it, but I knew that couldn't be true. At this point, there were too many questions, like was this done on purpose? Was this Keithy's way of saying goodbye by destroying his final map? And why was no one else talking about this? Well, that's because this corrupted map isn't actually the same one as Keithy's. This map is actually a completely separate add-on in a way, quote-unquote disguised as this map, simply made for one reason: to troll you. Yeah, this video actually features 6 maps, because this map is completely separate from the original, and this troll version technically is the original FNAF 3 map, as this one came out way before FNAF 3 did, or way before Keithy's, right after the trailer dropped for FNAF 3. But why even bring up this corrupted map if it has nothing to do with FNAF 3? Well, that's because it actually has a lot to do with it, and this map led me down a rabbit hole that seemingly no one has ever talked about, and that is probably for good reason, as this map is fairly obscure. But before we can get into that, we have to finally explain how this map appeared in place for the actual Fazbear's Fright map, and how it basically blocked me from playing it, and the simple answer? Well, it has the same file name, meaning that for whatever reason, it overwrites the actual map in place for this one, meaning that you can only see this map on the level select screen. So then how exactly did I still manage to play this map instead of the actual one when I had all other files disabled? Well, I was stupid and kept reactivating this map instead of the actual one because it was on a separate page, and because unaware to me, I thought the thumbnail for the map was this one. So with all that out of the way, then what the hell is this abomination? Well, the answer to that still requires a bit more digging, but with the confusing part out of the way, the answer is pretty easy to find. When looking at the Steam Workshop page for this specific map, a few things can be seen, with 2 primary points of interest being the images showcased, along with a disclaimer saying that the map is incompatible with Garry's mod. The images just show gameplay footage of FNAF 3, which must have been put in after the game's release, since they wouldn't have existed when this map was made. This section also includes a video link to a Venturian Tale video, which seems to show off this map, except that this video was released 1 week before this level was even made, meaning that this is just straight up misinformation. But if we direct ourselves to the warning regarding this incompatibility, this is where the real rabbit hole begins, as this wasn't always here, which is proven to us when looking at the comments and discussions featured on the page, with one of them mentioning how it was added after the fact due to the heavy backlash. These discussions and comments were very heated, and a lot of drama went down within them in order to get the map banned and to dox the developers who created it, which is typical for the community, especially back then. Within these, we can find the answers to whether this map was actually a troll map, and again, the simple answer is yes, admitted to by the developers as they said it themselves, and seemingly also continued to troll people who fought against this map continuing to stay up. But even 10 years later, some people are still being affected by this map, confusing it for the official one made by Keithy, as some people may have both versions downloaded, just like how I did. In a way, this map represents a lot of what was seen in the GMOD community, especially in the early days of FNAF's existence, as a lot of the workshop items related to FNAF either no longer exist, or are lost due to time, or are just broken and undocumented, such as this map. What started as a simple recreation of FNAF's maps led to situations like this, and compared to modern day, this era is barely recognizable, And in a way, this is what happened to a lot of early GMOD maps. Little documentation, no preservation, and as time passed, they either became broken or faded away. These maps were never meant to last forever. They were just quick recreations made for fun at the time, and they don't compare to what has been made today. But that's what makes it interesting, and that's the point of this video. They all represent a different stage of time, the evolution per se. They weren't just recreations, they were seemingly snapshots of a specific moment in the early days of Five Nights at Freddy's, from the early days, to the FNAF 2 days, to the troll days seen in the final map. But the early days were different. As if they were like modern FNAF, these would have been more documented, not requiring videos like this one to be made, or videos like the ones seen on screen to be made, those of which being ones you will enjoy if you enjoyed this one.